Hello. Today, it's all about daily routines using two hosts, Emily and Paul, to walk beginners through a typical day. Let's just dive right in.
Let's do it.
So, the first thing that really jumps out is the overall tone. It presents this seamless, very optimistic version of daily life.
Right. It's almost too perfect.
And while that's safe for beginners, it feels like we're missing an opportunity here for, deeper engagement, for relatability.
I completely agree. You see it right away. Emily and Paul, they wake up early, they make their coffee, they walk into a calm office. It's all very pleasant. But, and this is the key question, does that relentless positivity actually help a learner? We kind of call this the sterile reality problem.
Let's unpack that a bit. The day they describe has no problems. Waking up is easy, there's no traffic. Work is just sitting at a desk. It's a world that runs perfectly.
Exactly. And that's the weakness. Look, it's safe for A1. I get it. You avoid complicated words. But it has no friction. It paints a picture that's so smooth, it feels, well, artificial.
And a learner's trying to map these new English words onto their own life, which is...
Messy. Exactly. Their life has friction. So this sterile world can make the vocabulary feel distant. It's not as memorable, because if everything is perfect, nothing really stands out to the brain. The brain needs contrast to remember things.
I see what you're saying. It's like without some kind of conflict, even a tiny one, there's no story. And if the day is perfectly flat, the retention is going to be flat too.
Precisely. We don't need some huge drama. We just need a little bit of reality. We need the word but.
So the suggestion here is to inject these micro obstacles, little variations. That way you can teach some resilience vocabulary right alongside the routine words.
Yes, we want to introduce concepts like but or try without making it too difficult. We just need to attach the vocabulary to a small struggle, a small emotion.
Okay, so let's get concrete. In the script now, Emily says, I wake up around 7, I get out of bed. It's very direct.
Like a robot. It's functional, but it's flat. Now, imagine if we changed that. And Paul says something like, I try to wake up at 6:30, but sometimes I am too tired.
Ah, that's a subtle change, but it's powerful. You're immediately introducing a contrast there, the intention versus the reality.
And Paul suddenly becomes a real person. I mean, I am too tired is a phrase every single A1 learner wants to use right away. It validates their own experience.
Okay, let's find another place for this friction. The script has Emily say, I go to work, I sit at my desk. Again, very procedural.
It is. So what if we added a common annoyance? Something like, I go to work, but the traffic is bad. Or maybe I sit at my desk, but my computer is slow.
That attaches an emotion right to the noun.
Exactly. Now the word traffic is sticky because it's tied to frustration. The word computer is sticky because it's tied to being slow. You're not just teaching a word anymore. You're teaching the feeling of traffic.
Let's shift gears a bit to the structure. The issue I flagged here is that the script relies so heavily on this linear chronological sequence, it creates a repetitive, almost checklist sound.
Oh, definitely a checklist. It feels less like a story and more like debugging code.
The transitions are almost always after that, then, or next. You see it going from after that I go to the kitchen to then I get dressed.
And look, it's efficient for teaching sequence, sure. But I wonder if we're also, accidentally training the listener to speak in these really robotic, disjointed sentences.
I do this, then I do that.
Yes, it sounds like a program executing commands, not a person living their life. That staccato rhythm is actually really tiring to listen to for a long time.
So the weakness is the lack of a natural narrative flow. We're calling it the and then trap.
Right. So the suggestion is to start grouping activities by clusters of purpose, instead of just by time. We need transitions that explain why something is happening, not just when.
Let's pull an example. Right now, the move from breakfast to getting dressed is purely sequential. It just says, after breakfast, I get dressed.
Grammatically fine, but it's thin. A better way to do it would be to group that whole getting ready phase. The host could say, to get ready for work, I wash my face and choose my clothes.
Ah, so you're teaching the structure to, goal, I, action.
Exactly. It teaches intention. To get ready is the purpose. It frames the actions as part of a larger mission, not just random events on a timeline.
I see another one in the evening routine. The script lists wash the dishes and then immediately read a book. There's no connection between them.
That's a great place to strengthen. What if we use the contrast transition? Something like, I have to wash the dishes so that I can relax later with a book.
So that changes the whole feeling of the sentence.
It really does. It teaches cause and effect. You're elevating the lesson from just a list of verbs to a lesson in basic logic. It explains why we do the boring thing, the dishes, to get to the good thing, the book. That's how people actually talk about their day. We justify things.
It makes the script feel more advanced, even though the vocabulary itself hasn't really changed.
That's the key. We're keeping the vocabulary simple, but we're increasing the logical density.
Okay, let's turn to audience alignment, how the learner actually interacts with this. The main point here is about active versus passive learning.
This is so critical. As it stands, the material only asks for output at the very, very end. It's treating the listener like a passive container to be filled, not a participant.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Emily and Paul, they just talk at each other for most of it. They describe their toast, their cereal, their emails. It's not until the sign-off that they say, try to think about what you do.
But by then, they might have already forgotten all the morning vocabulary from the start of the video. The retention curve drops off a cliff. We're asking them to recall something from 5 minutes ago, which for a beginner is a really long time.
So the weakness is that delay in application. The learner is just passive for way too long.
Exactly. So the suggestion is to use what we call the pause technique, right in the middle of the dialogue. You have to force the listener to start thinking about their own routine alongside the hosts, not after.
Okay, show me how that would work. In the breakfast section, Paul asks Emily what she has. She says coffee and toast. Then she asks him. He says tea and cereal.
And the listener is just watching this dialogue tennis match, back and forth. So the update is simple. After Paul says tea and cereal, he should turn to the audience and ask directly, and you? Do you like coffee or tea?
And then what?
And then silence for about 3 seconds.
That's a long time in audio. That silence is heavy.
It has to be. It forces the listener's brain to switch on. They have to actually choose one of the words, coffee or tea. In that moment, they stop being a passive watcher and become an active participant. That little bit of pressure is where the memory gets made.
I love that. It completely changes the dynamic from a lecture to a conversation. It breaks the fourth wall.
It does. And you can do it again in the evening section. When Paul says he listens to music, instead of just moving on, he should ask the listener, do you listen to music or do you watch TV?
Again, forcing the choice.
Force the choice. It instantly solidifies the pathway for those words in their brain. And it's an immediate self-check. If they can't answer, they know they need to rewind. They might think they understood just by listening, but being forced to choose reveals if they actually did.
Okay, on to our final point, about completeness and focus. We're looking at vocabulary, specifically call locations.
Right, lexical chunks.
The material is really strong on single verbs. The list at the end is very clear. Make, go, have, wash.
And those are the building blocks, for sure. But is that enough? I'd argue that learning make by itself is way less useful than learning the words it naturally goes with. We want to avoid what I call skeletal speech.
So the weakness isn't the verbs, it's that we're missing a chance to teach adjective-noun pairings, to give it more descriptive power.
Exactly. Skeletal speech is when a learner says, I have sandwich, I go office. It works, but it's so dry. It's like a telegram. It has no color.
And the suggestion is to add simple, high-frequency adjectives to the nouns to create stickier mental images.
Precisely. We're not trying to make it grammatically more complex. We're not adding new clauses. We're just adding texture, color.
Okay, so right now the script says, I often have a sandwich or a salad.
What if we added a sensory detail, something like, I have a quick sandwich or I have a fresh salad?
Quick and fresh. Those are definitely A1 level adjectives.
They are, and they add so much context. A quick sandwich tells you it's a busy day. A fresh salad implies health. You're teaching two concepts with one simple sentence.
Here's another one. I work in an office.
Very factual. But what kind of office? Let's give it life. I work in a busy office, or I work in a quiet office.
And immediately the listener can actually visualize the place.
Yes, and visualization is a huge aid to memory. The brain remembers images much better than it remembers text. If you say office, the brain sees a gray box. If you say busy office, the brain sees people moving, phones ringing. That image helps lock the vocabulary in place.
One last example. The script says, I usually go to bed around 10:30.
That's just a timestamp. Let's make it a feeling. I go to a warm bed, or I have a long sleep.
Warm bed. That's a sensory trigger right there.
It is, and that's what helps memory, more than just dry facts. If the learner can feel the warmth of the bed or taste the freshness of the salad, they're much more likely to remember the English words for them. We're trying to hook the language directly into the senses.
So really, the big theme running through all of this is moving from a functional vocabulary list to a truly engaging experience.
That's the heart of it. The original script is a solid foundation. It covers the basics well, but with these kinds of tweaks, we're not just teaching them to list their day, we're teaching them to express their day.
Let's recap the main action points for our listener, just to make them super clear.
Sounds good?
First, that sterile reality. The script was a little too perfect, which can make it hard to connect with.
Right. So the action is to inject friction. Add small, relatable problems. Traffic, being tired, a slow computer. Use but and try to create contrast and make the vocabulary stick to an emotion.
Second, we had the and then trap. The linear structure was creating a robotic feel.
So fix the flow. Move away from just after that. Group activities by purpose. To get ready, I do this. I wash the dishes so that I can relax. Teach the logic behind the routine, not just the order.
Third was audience alignment. The learning was too passive for too long.
Active pauses. The hosts need to ask the listener direct questions during the dialogue. Do you like coffee or tea? Then wait. Force the brain to engage in real time.
And finally, completeness. The vocabulary was a bit skeletal.
Adjectival chunks. Attach simple adjectives to nouns. Quick sandwich. Busy office. Warm bed. Create memorable images to help the words stick.
These are all really concrete steps. They can transform the script without changing its core purpose or raising the difficulty level. It's still an A1 lesson, just a much more effective one.
Absolutely. It's not about a total rewrite. It's about tightening the screws and adding that essential layer of human connection.
We'd like to invite the creator of this lesson to apply these ideas. Add the friction, fix the flow, use the pauses, and beef up the nouns, and then submit the revised script back to us.
I would love to see that. I suspect the difference in engagement would be huge, not just in how long people watch, but in what they actually learn and remember.
I agree. Thank you for listening to this critique. We look forward to seeing the next version of your work.